Alright, Algebra 2. Now, in this video we're going to learn how to find the inverse of linear equations, right? But one of the things that I wanted to cover first and foremost is we need to first understand two things, right? In the previous videos we have learned that finding the inverse of a table, well, all we do is switch the x and the y values, right? Well, one of the other things that inverse functions do is, well, I have it written right here. You can see it right here. I have it written for you. Is inverse functions undo the order of operations of its original function, meaning the inverse function does everything opposite of the original function. So if your function adds 1, your inverse subtracts 1, right? So let's look at here. We have this original function right here, which is y equals 3x. Well, we want to find the inverse of it. Well, what's the opposite? So we have 3 times x here, right? What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So our inverse equation is just going to be x divided by 3. It does the opposite. This does the opposite of what our original function does. Well, our original function multiplied x by 3. So our inverse does the opposite of it, so it's going to divide by 3. All right? All right, well, let's go ahead and look at one more example problem right here. All right, so we have f of x equals 4x plus 2. We want to find the inverse. All right, so when you see this notation right here, that just means finding the inverse of f of x. So all this notation means is that we're trying to find the inverse of this function right here. Well, there's 2 ways we can do this, all right? One of the ways that we can do this is to basically do what we just talked about, right? Well, if we look at our function, it's multiplying x by 4 and it's adding 2. So if I wanted to find the inverse of this function, all right, oops, let me rewrite that just one more time. If I want to find the inverse of this function here, all right, well, what's the opposite of adding by 2? Well, it's just subtracting, so x minus 2. And then what's the opposite of multiplication? Well, that's just dividing by 4. So our problem is done. That's it. That's our answer, all right? We can also rewrite this as the inverse is the same thing as, well, x divided by 4, right? We're dividing x by 4 and then minus 2 divided by 4. All right, well, that's just the same thing as x divided by 4 minus 1/2. All right, so it's up to you to decide, but as you can see, all right, the way we set this original problem up right here, the way we set it up is just the opposite of addition. The opposite of adding by 2 is, well, subtracting by 2, and then the opposite of multiplication is dividing, so we divided by 4. All right, well, let's use another way to solve this, but let's actually use a method that we have learned in class, right? If we're switching a method we have learned from the previous videos, which is if you have a table, you find the inverse by switching the x and the y values. All right, so let's go ahead and do that right here. So I'm going to do this in a different way. I'm going to use a different color. We have y, let's use a little bit of a lighter color I meant. So we have y is equal to 4x plus 2. All right, step number 1 is we switch the x and the y values, right? So we have x is equal to 4 times y plus 2. All right, so just like before with a table and even with the graph, we switch the x and the y values. So all we do now is switch the x and the y with the equation here. All right, now we just subtract 2 to both sides. We get x minus 2 is equal to 4y, and now we divide by 4. There we go, and that's the exact same thing that we got up here, right? So our equation is just going to be y is equal to x minus 2 divided by 4. All right. Finally, let's just rewrite it using this notation. So the inverse is x minus 2 divided by 4. Okay. Or like before, the simplified version is this right here. All right. Let's go ahead and look at one more example. Here we go. All right. So this one looks a little bit more challenging, doesn't it? Because we have a negative right here, all right? And we're dividing by 3, so maybe we're a little bit confused on what to do. Well, don't you worry. Let us go ahead and figure out how to solve this problem, all right? Using the second method we learned. So let's rewrite this as y is equal to negative x divided by 3 plus 7. All right. first step that we do, like always, is we switch the x and the y. So we're going to get equal to negative y divided by 3 plus 7. All right, what do we do to get rid of the plus 7? Well, we minus 7 to both sides, and we're going to get x minus 7 is equal to negative y divided by 3. All right, I'm going to bring this up here. We have x minus 7 is equal to negative y divided by 3. All right, well, now I'm going to multiply by 3 to both sides. So I'm going to multiply by 3 to both sides. I put parentheses around here because I'm multiplying 3 to both sides and multiplying both of these by 3. All right, so this cancels out, and we're going to get negative y is equal to, negative y is going to equal, all right, what's 3 times x? 3x. And what's 3 times negative 7? Well, negative 21. All right, now what we do is we divide by negative 1 to both sides, divide by negative 1, and we're going to get y is equal to, all right, well, what's 3x divided by negative 1? That's just negative 3x. And then we have negative 21 divided by negative 1. Well, that's just plus 21. All right, and our final answer is this right here. Or, as we like to write it, we like to write it with function the notation of inverse, and we have negative 3x plus 21. All right, one of the questions you may still have is, how is it that even for a problem like this, we can divide this by negative 1 and this by negative 1, right? We're dividing both of them by negative 1. So let's look at this example here. 10 minus 6 divided by 2. All right. Well, what's 10 minus 6? Well, that's 4, and we have divided by 2, which is equal to 2. All right. Well, we'll do the same thing we did before. So we're going to do 10 divided by 2 minus 6 divided by 2. I'm dividing the 10 by 2, and I'm dividing this negative 6 by 2. Same thing as I did over here where I divided the 3x by negative 1 and the negative 21 by negative 1. So we go down here. All right, what's 10 divided by 2? Well, that's 5 minus 6 divided by 2 is 3, which is equal to 2. All right, there we go. So you can see that we get the exact same answer. So anytime we're dividing by 2, we're dividing everything by 2. Hopefully that goes to help you out. Thank you very much.